Good morning and welcome back to Cooking with Suzanne. Today we're going to prepare a batch of honey madeleines, which I think would be wonderful with the lemon creme brulee that we prepared and also with the panna cotta. So let's talk about the ingredients. In my bowl here I have 6 large egg whites and I have 6.5 ounces of butter or 13 tablespoons. And what I did with the butter is I melted it and I browned it on the stove. This takes about 5 minutes. And you want to watch it very carefully because there's a fine line between browning your butter and burning your butter. In French, this is known as beurre noisette. And what happens is when you melt and brown your butter like this, it takes on a wonderful nutty and kind of a caramel aroma to it, which is just delightful. The other ingredients I have here is a 1/2 cup of almond flour. Now, if you have an allergy to nuts, you can substitute this for an unbleached all-purpose flour. So 1/2 cup, and I also have a 1/2 cup plus 1 tablespoon of all-purpose unbleached flour, and I have 1 2/3 cup of confectioner's sugar. So the first thing we're going to do is just pass our all-purpose flour and our confectioner's sugar through a strainer, and to that I'm going to add about 1/8 teaspoon of fine sea salt. If you don't have fine sea salt at home, you can also use kosher salt, but I would probably increase that a tad, maybe about 1/4 teaspoon. But here I'm just going to put in about 1/8 teaspoon of sea salt. I'm just going to, you can use a spoon to do this as well. You just want to pass the flour and the confectioner's sugar so it's nice and smooth. There we go. And now we can add our almond flour to the regular flour. There. And just give this a good stir so it's nicely incorporated. I just have one of these old-fashioned hand mixers. And what I'll do is just break up the egg whites until they're just a little bit frothy, which only takes about 30 seconds. All done. So hopefully you can see that. It's kind of hard for you to see it, but it's just frothy, that's all. And now we will whisk in our flour and sugar, and you just want to whisk this till it's well incorporated. And then we will add our vanilla, and we're going to add 1 teaspoon of vanilla, 1 tablespoon of honey. So we have 1 teaspoon, and if you take a little bit of Pam and just spray your spoon before you add your honey to it, 1 tablespoon, it helps to take the honey out easily. And just pour it right into your bowl. And I think you'll see all the honey is off the spoon, so it's very easy. It's kind of a nice little trick. Now you just want to whisk this in. Okay, so here is our last ingredient, which is our butter. And it is important to know that it should be cooled. After you brown it, you want to let it cool to room temperature. You don't want your butter to go in hot. Okay. So this is a very loose batter. You could put this in the refrigerator to help set it up a little bit if you're not comfortable working with it like this. I just want to show you how loose it is. You see, it's a very, very loose batter. So you can put them into your Madeleine molds one of two ways. You can either spoon it in, or you can use a pastry bag. So this is our Madeleine molds. These are very old. They do make them non-stick now and silicone molds, so whatever you have at home is perfect. I still love my old-fashioned ones. I brush them. I just use a nice small pastry brush, and I brush them very well inside, making sure that you get all the cracks, and then I dust it with flour and put it over your sink to shake out any excess flour out of the pan. So you can either spoon it in, as I said. It's a little trickier to spoon it in because it is such a loose batter, but you can certainly do it. It works very well. By the way, this recipe makes 24 Madeleines, and you want to fill it almost to the top. I just have a pastry bag, no tip. You don't need a tip for this. Just slide it in. These bake at 400 degrees for about 11 to 14, 15 minutes. It depends on your oven, but you would certainly start looking at them in about 11 minutes. Here is, I just clip the end, and there is no tip. And all you want to do is just go in and fill it almost all the way. I find this much easier and much quicker. And just lift up when it's done and move on to the next. So if you want to bake them off at the same time, you will need 2 trays like this, because this has 12. And it does make 2 dozen Madeleines. So we'll put these in the refrigerator and let them set up for about an hour before we go ahead and bake these off. All right, I'm going to put these in the refrigerator. So I've taken this tray out of the fridge. They've been sitting in the fridge for an hour, and they're very well set up, as you can see. And now they're going to go into I've just taken these out of the oven. You see how they're a nice golden brown around the edge, and if you touch them, they spring back in the center, and that's how you know these are done. These took 13 minutes, so as soon as they come out of the oven, you want to tap them. This helps release, I know that sounds loud, but it helps to release the Madeleines from the pan. And you want to remove them right away, as soon as they come out. And you can just use a little offset spatula if you need to get them out. And I think you see my pan is nice and clean. So we're in good shape. Oops. And you can see how beautiful the Madeleines turned out. And all you have to do is get yourself a nice little bowl and line it with a napkin. Place your Madeleines inside. Hopefully you can see that. And I just dust the top with a little bit of confectioner's sugar. And that's all there is to making Madeleines. Okay, we'll see you next time. Have a great day.